When Scrooge awoke, he could scarcely distinguish the transparent window from his opaque walls in his chamber. He was endeavoring to pierce the darkness with his ferret eyes, when the chimes of a neighboring church struck the 4 quarters. So he listened for the hour. He was waiting for the clock to strike 1. Scrooge went to bed again, and thought it over and over and over, and could make nothing of it. Marley's ghost had bothered him exceedingly. The curtains of his bed were drawn aside, and Scrooge, starting up into a half-recumbent attitude, found himself face to face with the unearthly visitor who drew them. It was a strange figure.
Are you the spirit who's coming to haunt me?
I am.
What? Who are you?
I'm the ghost of Christmas past.
Long past.
No, your past.
It put out its strong hand as it spoke, and clasped him gently by the arm. They walked along the road, Scrooge recognizing every gate and post and tree, until a little market town appeared in the distance, with its bridge, its church, and winding river. They left the high road by a well-remembered lane, and soon approached where Scrooge had been bred.
Good heaven! I was bred in this place. I was a boy here.
These are but the shadows of the sins that have been. We have no consciousness of us.
Poor boy. I wish. But it's too late now.
What's the matter?
Nothing. There were some boys singing a Christmas carol at my door. I wish I had been given something. That's all.
Let us see another Christmas.
He was not reading now, but walking up and down despairingly. Scrooge looked at the ghost, and with a mournful shaking of his head, glanced anxiously towards the door. It opened, and a little girl much younger than the boy came darting in and put her arms about his neck, often kissing him.
Dear brother, I've come to take you home. Dear brother, take you home.
You're quite a woman, little fan.
She clapped her hands and laughed, and tried to touch his head, but being too little, laughed again, and stood on tiptoe to embrace him. Then she began to drag him, in a childish eagerness, towards the door, and he, nothing to go, accompanied her.
Always a delicate creature, she had a big heart, but she died a woman. And she had a child.
One child?
Yes, your nephew.
The ghost stopped at a certain warehouse door and asked Scrooge if he knew it.
I know it here. I apprentice here.
They went in at sight of an old gentleman in a Welsh wig.
Why, it's old Fezziwig, my old boss. I was his apprentice.
Old Fezziwig laid down his pen and looked up at the clock, which pointed to the hour of 7.
During the whole of this time, Scrooge had acted like a man out of his wits. His heart and soul were in the scene, and with his former self he corroborated everything, remembered everything, enjoyed everything, and underwent the strangest agitation. It was not until now, when the bright faces of his former self and old Fezziwig were turned from them, that he remembered the ghost, and became conscious that it was looking full upon him, while the light upon his head burnt very clear.
What's the matter?
Nothing in particular.
Something, I think.
No. I just wished I could have said 1 or 2 words to my clerk. That is all.
His former self turned the lamps as he gave utterance to the wish, and Scrooge and the ghost again stood side by side in the open air.
My time goes short. Quick.
This was not addressed to Scrooge, or to anyone whom he could see, But it produced an immediate effect, for again Scrooge saw himself. He was older now, a man in the prime of his life. His face had not a harsh or rigid lines for later years, but had begun to wear the signs of care and avarice. He was not alone, but sat by the side of a fair young girl in a mourning dress, in whose eyes there were tears, which sparkled in the light that shone out the ghost of Christmas past.
You fear the world too much. I've seen your aspiration follow one by one, have I not?
What then? Even if I have grown so much wiser, what then?
Our contract is an old one. You were a different man. You're changed.
I was a boy.
May you be happy in the life you have chosen?
Spirit, take me home. Conduct me home. I wish to see no more.
One shadow more.
No more, no more.
But the relentless ghost forced him to observe what happened next.
And now Scrooge looked on more attentively than ever, when the master of the house, having his daughter leaning fondly on him, sat down with her and her mother at his own fireside. And when he thought that such another creature, quite as graceful and as full of promise, might have called him father, and been a springtime in the haggard winter of his life, his sight grew very dim indeed.
I saw an old friend of yours today.
Who was it?
Take a guess.
How can I? I don't know.
It was Scrooge. I saw Scrooge at his office, and his window was shut. But inside, his friend was lying there, dead. And he did nothing. Scrooge is a lonely man.
Spirit, remove me from this place.
I told you, this was the shadows of the things that have been. They are what they are. Don't blame me.
He turned upon the ghost, and seeing that it looked upon him with a face in which in some strange way there were fragments of all the faces it had shown him, wrestled with it.
Leave me. Take me back. Haunt me no longer.
In the struggle, if that can be called a struggle, in which the ghost, with no visible resistance on its own part, was undisturbed by any effort of its adversary, Scrooge observed that its light was burning high and bright, and dimly connecting that with its influence over him, he seized the extinguisher cap, and by a sudden action pressed it down upon its head. The spirit dropped beneath it, so that the extinguisher covered its whole form, but though Scrooge pressed it down with all its force, he could not hide the light, which he streamed from under it, in an unbroken flood upon the ground. He was conscious of being exhausted and overcome by an irresistible drowsiness, and further, of being in his own bedroom. He gave the cap a parting squeeze, in which his hand relaxed, and had barely turned the wheel to bed, before he sank into a heavy sleep.